From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, March 27th, 2023. Start off taking a look at temperatures. We've got this persistent area of low pressure kind of situated just to the northeast of the Prairie provinces, and we continue to see cold air just kind of wrapping around the backside of that area of low pressure here. So keeping things on the colder side, bit of a boundary right here where we've got temperatures a little more on the mild side as you make your way into Alberta, but certainly eastern, southeastern portions of Saskatchewan, and then central and southern portions of Manitoba feeling a bit cooler here this Monday morning, and that's going to continue to be the setup over the next 7 days or so. The radar is rather quiet, maybe some light snow falling here between Calgary and Medicine Hat as we go through the Monday morning hours. Take a look at the satellite picture, and we continue to see much of the strongest jet stream winds and the upper level jet stream support continuing to come in across the southwestern U.S. and then run up through the southern and then eastern United States. And then again, that persistent area of low pressure kind of off to our north, giving us those shots of light snow and those additional shots of kind of reinforcing cold air. So you see the animation here on the satellite picture. This is infrared, so we're looking at the cold cloud top temperatures. What you also see here, is that dark purple, blue, and green shaded areas start to appear. Those are our overnight low temperatures. That is just bitterly cold air continuing to sink down into, again, central and eastern portions of the Prairie. At times, we'll feel some of that colder air in Alberta. Here's that area of low pressure, just continuing to spin. Stronger jet stream winds and the active storm track continues to come in and do something like this. So you can see just these little disturbances coming around the backside of that persistent area of low pressure off to our north. The precipitation forecast then looks something like this. We'll go ahead and bring it back. I'm going to circle the Prairie for you here. Here are the features. Again, here's the area of low pressure that continues to spin along off to our north, and then the active storm track is really doing something like this off to our south. So as I hit play on this, we'll animate this. I'll go slowly through it here in just a moment, but just kind of watch the next 10 days unfold. And you see we really continue to just get mist across the Prairie. The pattern is very active across North America, but it's active to our south. So let's take the drawings off. Unfortunately, I can't do that. Actually, I've glitched it by advancing one too far on my slideshow here, but you see the snow through the day on Monday, very light in nature across southern portions of Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan. This little disturbance gets out of here. We get a quiet Tuesday. We'll be quiet on Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday is when we see the next little wave start to sweep through. You see it right here. This is Thursday. This takes us into Friday, just some very light, inconsequential snowfall. Meanwhile, a much larger storm system and some heavy snow tracking across the Dakotas, parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, through the Great Lakes. We take it through another relatively quiet weekend with some increasing chances for light snow. This is when we get our next chance for maybe stacking up a couple inches of snow. Get a little bit more of a favorable track with some of these disturbances as we get through the weekend. This is the first few days of April 2nd, 3rd, now getting into April 4th. As we compare the European and the GFS, the European a little more pessimistic, the GFS a little more optimistic with heavier snowfall across the region. I'll show you that here in a moment. But just looking at the next 10 days from the Euro, you see the active storm track doing something like this. Heavy snow across the Pacific Northwest, parts of California, into the northern and central Rockies. The storms eject across the Central Plains, and we see heavy snow across the Dakotas, parts of the Great Lakes in the U.S. Severe storms on the south side of that, and then across the Prairie, we are more or less left out here. We get a couple of millimeters of precipitation here, maybe a few centimeters. You look at the snowfall forecast here, the Euro on the left, GFS on the right. Again, as I said, the GFS over here on the right side, a little bit more optimistic, but a lot of this comes over the weekend into early next week. So we're talking about days 7 to 10 in our forecast here. So as you look at the European, we're talking about maybe up to 5 centimeters here, anywhere from 4 to 6 centimeters of snow over the next 10 days, 4 to 6 inches of snow. There you go, a little bit more optimistic, anywhere from Calgary down to Medicine Hat, southern tier of the provinces here. And then you look at the European versus the GFS, of course, on the right, with a little bit more optimistic snowfall take. Same thing with the ensembles, European ensemble on the left, GFS ensemble on the right. Both of these, the probability of picking up 3 inches or more of snowfall over the next 10 days. So through April 5th. Again, along and south of the Prairies here, or along and south of Highway 16, across the Prairies, we're talking about 30 to 40% chance across much of the region as you make your way further west across Alberta, the foothills, Portions of southern Alberta may be getting higher in that, better than 50% chance. You look at the GFS, it seems more optimistic, but really we've got a bit of a hole here, so we're still sorting out some details. This is not, a slam dunk heavy snowfall. We're talking about days 7 to 10, a slightly increased chance for some measurable snowfall across the region. Again, the GFS, the more optimistic take, this is what that looks like. It's still quiet over the next 5 days. That chance of light snow today, quiet Tuesday, quiet Wednesday. We see that next front sweep through Thursday and Friday. Meanwhile, much heavier snow off to the south. This is the weekend now, Saturday into Sunday. This is where the GFS is a little more optimistic with some accumulating snow across the region. Certainly possible, but again, we're looking at the date up here Monday, April 3rd, Tuesday, April 4th. You see another system tracking across the central, across the central U.S. This is what we saw late winter, early spring last year. We started to see that storm track deflect a little bit further to the north. We saw some of these systems then bringing heavier snow into eastern portions of the prairie. So we'll watch this. This is certainly a direction that our forecast storm track could take as we get into the month of April. And this is what the GFS is advertising way out there, April 5th and 6th. As we look a little bit further, days 10 to 15, the European ensemble keeps colder temperatures. We see that on the left in place across the prairie. So no big warm up coming. If anything, we're going to keep temperatures on the colder side over the next 2 weeks across the prairie. And as we look at the precipitation forecast, near average forecast across the Canadian prairie, a lot of that a product of uncertainty. It really could go either way. We could keep things on the dry side, but if we get that storm track to lift a little further to the northeast, we could certainly start to acquire some heavier snowpacks as we get into the month of April. But the next 10 days, relatively quiet, with the storm track continuing to focus across this region, and that is the advertisement here for days 10 to 15 as well. That would be troughing across this region, allowing that colder air to continue to sink into the region. A lot of this being reinforced by snowpack being forecast across the region. But that active storm track then continues to just run up this direction right here. And that's why we end up with all of the heavy precipitation across this corridor at the central and eastern into the southern United States. Your high temperatures, low temperatures over the next 10 days. Again, on the colder side to start the week, we'll see additional shots of colder air as we head through the next 10 days. But on the warmer side in Calgary and Edmonton, a little bit further to the west, as you make your way further east, we get a little colder. Not going to be getting above freezing in Saskatoon or Regina over the next 10 days, maybe close to it over the weekend. Same thing in Winnipeg here. Those high temperatures anywhere from -5 to -10 over the next few days, getting back up to around -3, -4, maybe close to freezing as we get into the weekend. But again, temperatures on the colder side compared to average over the next 10 to 15 days, if not a little bit longer.